Far more than we think. Making Sense of Spirituality by Angelo. Chapter 44. The Hole in the Soul. Many of the people who I have met and talked with during my period of recovery describe their previous experience as living with a hole in the soul, and this is something that I also experienced. It's the feeling that there's something missing in our lives, regardless of how successful and fulfilling life may appear to be on the surface. There seems to be a deep longing for something, but we cannot quite figure out what it is. Even in good times, there may be an anxious feeling inside us that something is still missing. This feeling is the underlying fear that comes from living through ego alone. However much bravado we display to the outside world, there is an inner fear that we will not be safe, not succeed, not be loved, or not remain healthy. In addition to this basic fear, we make mistakes, upset people, feel victimized or unfairly treated, and carry this guilt, shame and resentment around with us. These feelings of fear and negative emotion create the hole in the soul. We try to fill this hole by all manner of substances and behaviours, and we may even get temporary relief, but sooner or later the feeling returns. We try to deny it, and we often ignore it, but in truth the hole in the soul is there and we know it. We hope and dream that one day we will find the right person, or make enough money, or retire from our career, or achieve some other milestone that will make our life complete. We believe external circumstances will fill the hole in the soul. Some of us have a pretty clear idea of what it is that we want, but many others have no idea at all and jump from one thing to another, constantly searching for that magic fix that will make everything okay. This is the struggle for fulfillment that many of us pursue for a lifetime. This is often a silent struggle because we're afraid to admit to anyone that our lives are not as good as we would like them to be. We assume everyone else has got life sorted and that it's only us that's dying inside. We assume we're the only ones with a hole in the soul. It's now my belief that these feelings that I've outlined are part of the generic human condition. There may well be many exceptions, but I believe there are also a great many people who will relate in some degree to this description of their inner lives. It's almost as though we don't really know what life should be about, so we focus on cultural norms and just get on with it. The assumption is that we will figure it out one day, but many never do. I lived with a hole in the soul until age 52. I had most of the trappings of life that many would aspire to, yet I was miserable, scared, stressed, depressed, confused, and becoming increasingly suicidal. I had brief respites from such feelings, but that undercurrent of fear and unhappiness was always there. In the end, I ran away from everything in a valiant, selfish, and ultimately vain attempt to fix myself. But all I did was take all of my problems with me. The problem was still there. I was the problem. Specifically, the problem was my reliance on ego and my belief that I could fill the hole in the soul with external solutions. It will not surprise you to learn that I no longer feel that I have a hole in my soul. The thing I had unknowingly been yearning for all along was suddenly given to me at the precise moment that I surrendered my ego and embraced spirituality. This happened for me when I finally engaged in a 12-step recovery program to address my alcoholism. I now feel much more complete. There's nothing missing that I need to obtain from elsewhere. Everything I need to live a happy and fulfilling life is right here inside me. It was here all along, but I never took the trouble to look because I was too busy being who I thought I should be, rather than who I really was. I had complete freedom of choice, yet I chose the difficult path because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. This was a simple mistake that had shaped my life for many years, but it was not a mistaken decision that I had made, but rather a choice that I didn't make. Spirituality had been there all along as an option, but I chose to ignore it because it did not fit in with my existing beliefs. Religion was clearly flawed, and spirituality was either ancient and irrelevant or modern and irresponsibly weird. Contempt prior to investigation kept me in ignorance, but it was certainly not blissful ignorance. I was struggling and finding it increasingly difficult to keep my head above water. My eventual breakdown came at a heavy personal price and caused great hurt and harm to those closest to me. I am, nevertheless, extremely grateful for the spiritual awakening that eventually resulted. Like many others, I had to be completely broken and desperate before it happened. Yet discovering my innate spirituality has been the single most important watershed in my life. It is my most sincere hope that by sharing my experience and what I've learned, others might come to a similar turning point in their lives, rather than first having to reach crisis or meltdown. Spirituality is the missing link. Living with a hole in the soul causes us to spend our lives trying to grab everything we can in order to try to fill that internal longing. We never succeed because we're chasing the wrong solution. Spirituality fills that hole and makes us complete. Once we are complete, we are able to spend our lives giving rather than taking. The more unconditional love we give, the more we receive, and so starts a newly vibrant, abundant and joyous phase of our lives. This, I believe, is the source of true happiness. We experience the hole in the soul when we live our lives in separation from the true nature of who we really are. Once we become aware of our innate spirituality, the hole miraculously disappears, and it will always remain so, provided we maintain our practice and keep the ego at bay. The hole in the soul eventually takes its toll. Spirituality is a gift and is freely available to all of us whenever we are ready. We must each decide for ourselves when that is.